Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 108 of Teaching Tales, the podcast totally devoted to sharing stories from the world of education. I am your host, Brent, an educator in beautiful Southern California. I was a former 4th and 5th grade teacher for 15 years, spent 11 years as a site administrator, and this year I moved into a new role as the coordinator of elementary education, where I support the 11, 12, if you include our virtual elementary school, all the elementary schools in my district. And in this episode, I just want to start and say, you read that title correctly. If you tapped on this and you're like, wait a second, is that a typo? Does that say Poo-Pourri, like the spray that you put in bathrooms? It does. And it's not just clickbait. I have, this is kind of an analogy that we're going to use here that I think will be a good reminder to those of us in leadership positions. And if you're a classroom teacher, you're in a leadership position in your classroom. So let's jump right in and see what we're talking about here. I'm going to start by making a statement that I don't think anyone's going to disagree with. It's an honest statement where I think we're close enough that I can make this statement. So I think you would agree that there are parts of working in education. There are certain aspects of working in education, just like there are in other jobs, in other professions. There's parts of the job of being a teacher or an administrator. There's parts of the job that stink, right? I mean, I don't think anyone out there is like, no, what are you talking about, Brent? Education is perfect. I love every single second of every single day. Everything I have to do is perfect. I don't think anyone would say that. There are parts of the job, just like if we were a lawyer or a doctor or a chef, there's parts of every job that stink. And I want to follow that up with a lot of the things that we do in education. There is immense value. And I don't want anyone to walk away from this thinking, well, he's saying that there's not value in what we do. No, there's incredible value in what we do. But sometimes the behind the scenes work, the administrative, the bureaucratic work that you have to do behind the scenes, that for those things that really have great value, it can feel like it's getting in the way of what's really important. And let me give you an example, a non-education example. My brother-in-law several years ago used to be a police officer. And I remember talking with him years ago, and he said that whenever he would have to arrest someone for drunk driving, for example, after the arrest, the amount of paperwork that he had to do to document that arrest, he said, was staggering. It was hours of paperwork for a single drunk driving arrest. Now, is there value in him arresting somebody who was driving drunk, putting the community at risk? Absolutely. All right. I know that everyone would agree. We don't want drunk drivers out there. So there was great value in him arresting somebody for drunk driving, but it was the behind the scenes work, the documentation, the bureaucratic, the reports that he had to write. That's what he said stinks or stunk for him. So relating that to education, there are things that we do, so many things in education that have such great value. But the reality is, oftentimes, there's things that we have to do behind the scenes that stink, right? The reports, the bureaucratic, the administrative requirements that we have to do. Let me give you a couple examples. Report cards or progress reports. Now, I don't know if I've ever met a teacher yet who loves filling out progress reports or report cards. They may say, oh man, this stinks. Is there value in report cards, in communicating student progress to parents? Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, it can be very time consuming and laborious to go through all of our data, our assessments, and synthesizing all that into a progress report or a report card. As a site leader, safety plans, school plan for student achievement, the SIPSAs. Is there value in a safety plan for school? Absolutely. Can it stink sometimes to make sure that the format is correct and that we've got everything just right and our I's are dotted, our T's are crossed for the state? Again, value in the plan, it can be a little tedious and laborious to get that going, to get that all done. IEPs, SSTs that teachers, the paperwork that they have to complete for that. Once again, there's great value in if there's a student who needs additional supports or interventions, we're going to make sure that that happens. I've never met a teacher who doesn't want to do that and is not willing to put in the work. But that being said, if we're being honest, all of the documentation, it can stink sometimes because it takes a lot of time. So let me get to the question here. So if you're thinking, so Brent, how does this relate to Poo-Pourri? First of all, if you're not familiar with Poo-Pourri, Poo-Pourri is an amazing invention. I don't know when it came out, a few years ago, whatever. It's a spray that was designed to, you put it in the bathroom, and when you need to do your business, go number 2, you need to go poo, you spray a little of this in the toilet before doing your business, and the chemicals in this spray absorbs the stink from the poo. It's an amazing invention. So that's how Poo-Pourri works. If you haven't used this, I'm telling you, it works, ladies and gentlemen. So how does this relate to leaders and education, though? Well, here it is. Everybody poops, right? In real life, there's gonna be poop. You're gonna have to use the bathroom. But Poo-Pourri can make that poop stink less. You can't get rid of the poop, but you can make the poop stink less. I can't believe that. Yes, we are talking about poop here, but stay with me. How does this relate to leadership? As leaders, for anyone who's a leader, again, if you're a classroom teacher, you're the leader of your students in that class. You are a leader. If you're a site leader, an assistant principal, or a principal, I'm now in a role as a coordinator where I oversee and assist and support all of our elementary school administrators and teachers. As leaders, our job is to remove obstacles, right? The job of a leader is how can we remove the obstacles so the teachers can do what they do best, which is teach kids, service their students. The reality, though, is there are going to be times when those obstacles, and I'm going to call those the things that stink, sometimes we can't remove those. Sometimes the poop is going to be poop, okay? When that's the case, our job is to be the Poo-Pourri, okay? If we can't get rid of the poop, can we make the poop stink less? Right? Again, there's going to be parts of our job where if we can get rid of it, if we can flush it, fantastic. But if we can't, we need as leaders to do everything that we can to make it stink less for those people that we're serving. So let me give you some examples of what could this look like. Because this whole episode was born. The other night I was talking with my wife and it's like, oh my gosh, there's things that I can't flush. There's things that I'm having to ask some of our sites, some of our administrators to do that stink. And my job is to make it stink less. Let me give you an example. Going back to the progress reports and report cards. Teachers have to do progress reports. They have to do report cards. That's not something that's going to go away. That is not an obstacle that can be completely removed. But can we make that stink less? The little spray, can we make it stink less? Here's an example. Maybe instead of a staff meeting, as a principal or an assistant principal, instead of having that hour-long staff meeting, you send teachers in an email or a video, hey everybody, here's the information that you need. Instead of meeting, I'm going to give that hour back to you. I just sprayed some Poo-Pourri and made what they have to do stink a little less. Here's another example. Maybe you've got that parent who's reached out to you and saying, hey, I need to talk with that one teacher. Can you have that teacher call me? So you call the teacher and say, hey, talk to the teacher. Hey, I need you to reach out to this parent and call that parent. Now, probably not something that teacher is going to be looking forward to. So can we spray a little Poo-Pourri there and say, hey, tell you what, here's a script. I've typed out a little bit. This is something that could help guide your conversation. Or better yet, Why don't we call that parent together? Swing down to my office after school. We'll put her on speakerphone. We'll talk to her together. I just sprayed a stinky situation and made it a little better. Maybe it's an email. The teacher, you say, you know what, I need you to, can you respond to that angry parent, that upset parent who has a concern? Rather than just saying, hey teacher, I need you to email that parent back. But that stinks. That's not something the teacher's looking forward to. Maybe instead of just saying email them back, you say, hey, have a seat. Let's write the email together. Making a stinky situation a little easier. Now, teachers do this all the time. Think of writing, for example. A lot of students think that writing stinks. As teachers, especially in like the upper grades, I'm thinking I used to teach 4th and 5th grade. Did I just pass out blank pieces of lined paper and say, all right, boys and girls, I need you to write me a 3 to 5 paragraph essay. Good luck. No, we use graphic organizers and scaffolding, things like that helped make that task a little easier. We scaffolded for them, made the process a little less stinky for those kids who didn't write. Because is there value in writing? Absolutely. But what can we do to make it stink less? Here's an example that I personally experienced just this last week. One of my jobs is we have some visual and performing arts teaching instructors that are providing VAPA lessons, visual and performing arts lessons, to all of our elementary school students. I help coordinate the scheduling for that. And what I have to do as part of that is I lean on some of our site administrators. Hey, assistant principals, I need your help in getting your teachers signed up for this. And I'm recognizing that, oh man, I got to send something else out to my assistant principals. I got to send something out that could be viewed as poop. Okay? Does it mean that there's no value in that lesson? Absolutely not. These VAPA lessons there's great value in those lessons. So instead of just saying, hey, hey, assistant principals, can you make a schedule and have your teachers sign up? I created a complete template, put the times in there, said, hey, APs, I've already put the times in there. I've already put what days you are. All I need you to do is plug your teachers' names. Okay? Made the stinky thing that I had to ask them to do. There's value in it, but I made it a little less stinky. All right, and the last example I want to give involves the timing of how we communicate information that potentially may stink, okay? And this comes from a personal example that I had. This last Friday, I had some information that I needed to send out to our assistant principals and principals regarding some of the enrichment classes that we are offering after school at all of our elementary school sites as part of our ELOP program, for those of you who are familiar with the Extended Learning Opportunities program. So what I had done is I had gotten the flyers together, bullet point list. Again, I was trying to make it stink as little as possible. I had the flyers. I had a bullet point list of here's the directions of what you need to do. I needed them to send a message out to their families. So instead of saying, hey, write a message, I gave them the script and said, all you have to do is copy and paste this into your email and send it out to the family. So I had tried to make it as microwavable or TV dinner-ish as I could to make that stink a little less. But here's the thing that I want to really highlight. In addition to making the information less stinky, the timing of it is what was important. I had on my calendar to send this out to everybody at 4:30 on Friday afternoon. That's when it was on my calendar. And I had everything ready to go in my drafts folder, but I didn't hit send because I realized, wait a second, and I have been guilty of this before, but I realized, wait a second, if I send this right now, one of my administrators may get an email right before they're shutting down their computer, and right before they head out to the weekend, they're getting something else they need to do. They're getting some poop. They're getting something that stinks. So I stopped myself and I said, wait a second, does this need to go out right now? Because for me, waiting was something that made the information that I had to communicate a little less stinky. So I didn't send it out because I didn't want our administrators to get something right before they went into the weekend. Now, had I sent those emails right then and there, it would have made my to-do list a whole lot smaller. I would have been able to check off a whole bunch of things off my to-do list. But fortunately, I recognize, wait a second, it's not about my to-do list. It's not about making my list less stinky. As a leader, I need to make sure that I am making their jobs less stinky. So I waited until the following week. Monday morning came. I looked at my calendar and said, oh, should I send it out now? And you know what? I didn't send it out right then either, because what I didn't want was, hey, how was your weekend? Welcome back. And the first thing in their email inbox is something that stinks, something extra. Once again, there's amazing value in these classes that we're offering, but it still stinks a little bit because it's something extra that I'm asking our administrators to do. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. But if I sent that info at the wrong time, it could be completely overwhelming. Here's another thing that I need to put out there, a reminder for everyone. If you send something out to teachers on the weekend, and again, I am pointing at myself here, I have been guilty of sending stuff out to teachers on the weekend. If you are like, oh my gosh, I just remembered something, I got to send it out to my teachers before I forget, and you send the email out either late at night during the week or over the weekend, guess what? Some of your teachers are checking their email, and guess what? They're seeing something that may stink a little bit. It may be some extra work. So my recommendation is don't send those things out on the weekend. And we can say all we want. Well, I don't expect you to check it on the weekend. But if they do, and it's a little extra work or something you're asking them to do, that stinks. So by just waiting, you're making it stink a little less. So again, I hope this, I don't know if this landed for me. It was like, oh my gosh, my job is, I am the Poo-Pourri. I'm going to remove obstacles as much as I can. But when I can't, on the things that stink, that have to be done, that I may have to ask somebody to do something, can I make it stink less? We can't get rid of the poop. Just in real life, everybody poops, okay? If we don't poop, it backs up, now we got a bigger problem, okay? But can we make it stink less? So anyway, that's what I think we as leaders can learn from Poo-Pourri. So thank you for listening. Hopefully we didn't offend with a podcast centered around poop, but I think you get the picture. I appreciate you listening again. If you haven't already done so, you can subscribe to the podcast in your favorite place wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're in Audible now as well, or you can listen directly on the podcast page of my website at brentcoley.com. If you're in need of some encouragement, I've got my book right now, Stories of Edu-Influence. You can get that on Amazon. It's full of stories, real-life stories from the classroom and front office that will remind you that you make a difference. And even those small things that are making things stink less, those small things can make a big impact. So again, Stories of Edu-Influence, my book is available on Amazon. My children's book called The Gift, also available on Amazon. You can find all the details for that on my website at brentcoley.com. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Appreciate you. And until next time, have a good one.